you mentioned this earlier, and when you get some new information about your God and your King and His creation, it makes you love Him more and just settles you down a little bit. It calms me, it relaxes me. Even sometimes at nighttime I'm looking up at the stars or I see the moon and or take my binoculars and I'm like, man, you know who I am. You're aware of me on this little speck of a planet, And the other day I heard a story that I hadn't heard in a long time, ever heard. It was of a dolphin. And they said, think about dolphins and some of the other sonar creatures that we have in the ocean. And for them to evolve just in that particular area, they would have to have 3 different functioning systems evolving at the same time. One being a vocal ability to be able to do that. One being a special hearing device to receive it. And then one being a mental device to transmit the reception into sonar images. And to think that those 3 different systems accidentally happened is absurd.
Yeah.
There's no way, and I never really thought about that. And there's tons of, various creation science things that I find that's constantly testifying of God. And when I hear that, even about the mind and what it's capable of doing, it just makes me, like you said, love Him more. Just it calms my.
Let me give you one example because this will help for what I want to tell you in a minute. I'm a little bit fuzzy on exactly the way the echolocation works on a dolphin, but I'm up on the bat right now. I mean, I've got the things. I'm just not sure. Either the bat or the dolphin actually sends out different frequencies at the same time, so the sonar is coming out at 2 different frequencies, and it helps them to make a 3-dimensional image of what they're doing. I think it's the dolphin.
Yeah, it's just an accident that happened from an explosion. Right.
But watch this. This is a gold concept. This is important for the rest of the story. So a gold concept is something that's just fascinating. It's just kind of like rocker socks. It's cool. And it's good for biochem physics and the younger ones. You can even start little kindergartners beginning to understand. I don't believe in baby science. It's got to be great stuff, but said in a way that as kindergartner or whatever, you got to begin wiring them when they're young to really get the maximum impact. So there's a we were driving down in Texas and we turned down this road to visit some of Renita's old friends. And I noticed the sign said Batcave Road, and I just started laughing because I used to watch Batman when I was a kid. I thought of the Batmobile, coming out with the fire, behind the car and all. And she and then she said, no, there's a Batcave down this road. There's a cave that has bats in it. And I went, oh, really? So then I talked to them, to our 2 friends when we pulled up at their house, and said, yeah, it's Bracken Cave. I said, Bracken Cave, the Bracken Cave? And I went, whoa, that's the biggest bat colony in the world. 20 million, I knew about it, but I forgot it was in San Antonio. 20 million bats come to this cave in San Antonio. It's on the outskirts of San Antonio, and they nest, and that's where they rear their young. And then they said, you want to have a tour of them coming out of the bat cave? I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So the fellow took us there. And you're walking by this dilapidated building, and it's got a hole going down like 180 feet. He goes, don't go into that building. It's got a long drop. And that's how they used to, because they were gathering the nitrates and all for explosives in World War.
Saltpeter.
What was it? Was it
Civil War and
but they actually set up guards around it to keep the South or North
Bad
from getting
poo
at
makes
it.
saltpeter, which makes gunpowder.
So anyway, it's this fascinating thing, and then we sat down, and the guy's saying, he's telling us they're about to start coming out, and he goes 20 million bats, and I already knew about it, and then he said there's a moat. They're beginning to. He said go around in circles. And he said, it's because they can't fly straight up. And I went, well, that's not true. They can fly straight up really well. And actually, because one of the things that I said, how in the world to get 20 million bats to go out of a cave without crashing into each other? It's going to be absolute pandemonium. And I don't know, but my hunch is they're going around in circles and they're establishing the size of the line. And then they just keep going around like this as they're coming out. It makes sense. It's a way to get them to organizedly come out. Right. And they come out and they just keep going in this big circle. Yeah. And they're right over your head, like 7 feet above your head. There's this massive thousands and thousands and thousands of bats. And they're circling around you. It's absolutely insane. And then they start going out. It's an amazing choreographed thing. And they say, if I've got it right, that's why I need my files. I think it makes a line 20 miles long. of bats, and they just keep piling out, and they eat some, I don't know, like 500,000.
Tons of
I mean, like
mosquitoes and stuff. Yes, we like bats. Yeah, we need bats.
So the thing, ever since I first learned about it many years ago, I said, how in the world do they keep from crashing into each other? Because we can't hear their sound, but their sound is loud. It's so loud they have to detach their ears every time they do it. And when bats are going out to pursue something, when they're just cruising around, they're shooting out 10 or so impulses a second. It's not the squeaking that you hear. It's you can't hear it. And then when they go into pursuit, it goes up to 200 times per second. So they have to detach as they scream, or they'll blow their own eardrums, and then they have to re-engage it in 200ths of a second to catch them coming back. And this has to go like that at precision time. Now, but I knew that was an interesting fact for me. But what I really didn't understand is, if I'm screaming and you're screaming and everyone else is screaming, how in the world can I tell which vibrations are mine?
Yeah.
So I figured out they have to have just thinking.
Yeah.
Just think. They have to have a signature vibration, and so somehow they have to have a way of telling whose signature vibration. Yeah. Even though everybody's screaming at you at the same time.
20 million.
Then I found out. I found out the reason I didn't know the answer is because no one on earth knew the answer.
Wow.
And then when I found out the answer is that if they vibrate over 100,000 times a second. So if your vibration rate is 100,001 vibration a second, and mine is 100,001 and 1/10 of a second. No, get this. 100,000 vibrations a second. If mine is 1/10 of a vibration different than yours, I can discriminate that in 3 millionths of a second. God has made it to where they can do that.
Wow.
And they can.
It's like FM radio times a billion.
Yeah,
you can dial in your frequency is a little bit different than yours.
And I'm going, how in the world did God pull that off?
It's incredible.
I'm pretty sure they can change course in a 10,000th of a second, because if you're flying and you both change course the same direction, you have to re-change course before you collide. And there's not dead bats all over the bottom of caves. And you're dealing with 20 million bats all screaming at each other.
In a small space.
Yeah. So that's a gold concept.
Incredible.
And there's all kinds of things I can tie into that make it just magnificent. And it'll put any physician on their face before God. Yeah. It'll put any physicist who doesn't know that going, when I got my master's degree and I was giving my thesis talk, half of the class came up to me afterward and said, all I did was tell them gold concepts. All I did was tell them amazing things. I didn't mention God or anything. Half of them came up to me privately in the course of the next day or so and said, I don't believe in God, but after what you told me, there has to be something up there.
Right.
And I found that when people understand the wonders of their dog or the wonders of their eye, there's a softness there.
Yeah.
People have a lot of hurt inside their hearts regarding Christians, and we're all just people struggling to make life, and we misinterpret things. But when you start bringing up wonders, there's an amazing softness. And what I can say is, I'll talk to an atheist and I'll say, well, let me just throw some stuff at you. And then they just they soften. Yeah. And I say, I believe there's a God who made all this. If I'm right, there's hope for us after we die.
Yeah.
If you're right, there's no hope.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how soft people are.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that. Last year we discovered this after a lot of study and some things that we did on our travels. There's a lack of awe. There's something that a sense of awe does for humans. That is standing at the Grand Canyon. That is going out and looking at the moon, looking at the stars, going to Big Bend in Texas, and just looking at things. And when you lack awe, there's a problem in your psyche, in your moral development, and just about everything that you do. It begins to shut down portions of your brain and your thought process. Awe is a missing out, which is why people are stuck on their phones, stuck inside the house. They are lacking awe moments. I think one of the best things that you can give your family is take them to the Smoky Mountains. Take them to outside. Let them look at the stars. Take them to see. We drove. How many hours away did we drive to see the last solar eclipse, so we could actually take our glasses off, and we saw things. We saw this magnetic field waving on the grass. It looked like I was inside of an ocean. We're saw the solar flare on the bottom side. It was bright. It was just crazy things that we saw. All the birds and everything just got quiet. Wow. It was a moment of awe.
Wow.
We need awe moments in our life like that.
Right. Well, they say.